Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, rolling with Nate Weitzer, who's going to be rolling separately here as I get into things. We'll toss to Nate for his first set of picks, but do want to remind you, we have this player props video as well as best bets up each and every weekday this season, so make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along. Also want you to head to thelines.com and use that prop finder tool that we have under the NBA tab to make sure you're getting the best juice available to you from all of these books that are giving us bets this season. Let's get right into Nate's first play a prop for tonight.
Yeah, I mean, this might be my best bet of the night overall. Honestly, it's something that I've hit multiple times in terms of as the odds have gotten better. And that's Ayo Dosunmu over 16.5 points. Now plus 100 at DK or MGM. Started at minus 110. And I can't understand why books are giving you more value on this once, you kind of dive deeper into the numbers and realize that he's being undervalued here in this spot. I think it's the fact that Kobe White is back makes some bettors worry that Ayo suddenly his usage is going to fall off a cliff. That has not been the case at all. I mean, first of all, Kobe White is back. He is also absolutely gassed. He's not playing particularly well. He's not at all a usage monster. He's scoring 12 points a game in these two games back on 33% shooting. He's getting 44 touches per game, scoring about 0.25 per touch. Ayo is still up at 62 and a half touches, which is 30th in the NBA. He's 15th in his last four, two without Kobe. He's scoring 0.4 points per touch. And I think you're getting this value because he's coming off a 14-point game against Boston, the best team in the East for sure. But he still played 40 minutes, still got plenty of usage. Previously coming off a career high 35 in 39 minutes at Houston, in which he was over this total, over 17 and a half, in fact, by halftime. So for you to say that he's a one-game sample of him struggling against Boston, and then you're going to fade him against the Washington Wizards, if you're an odds maker, like, I'm sorry, you said an incorrect line. Ayo is a huge part of what the Bulls are doing right now, and when they play this kind of bad team, a guy like DeRozan, I mean, on top of Kobe White just being out of gas, I think, to a degree, and maybe just playing games to be in the most improved discussion. Because if he misses, if he gets under 65, that's over. But he certainly needs to be out there to have that criteria. But look at the last time they played Washington, and DDR only took 7 shots from the field, 13 points, most of that at the line. Ayo gets to go off for 34 on 14 for 22 shooting. He was a team high plus 22 against just an absolutely atrocious defense, which we know on the road, and Washington in general allows the most points, rebounds, and assists to shooting guards since the All-Star break. So anything you want to tack on makes sense. The big fear is a blowout, I think, minus 13 for Chicago at home here, but Ayo is so young. He's playing so many minutes, regardless of situation, that he has a much better chance of being the last starter on the floor, lighting it up here against a poor defense before they pull the plug. And I look no further than the last time they played Washington, when again DeRozan had a tiny usage. Vooch was the only one picking up some scoring, and Kobe White was out for that game. Yes, but again, I don't think Kobe White is back in here gunning. It's about Ayo, at least down the stretch here. So hit that one. And second bet here, I mean, it goes in line with the Clippers and Pacers over here at crypto in LA. And it's James Harden over 30.5 PRA. He's a guy who's not typically affected by back-to-backs as much. An absolute gym rat who's fine playing every day, whereas other guys on the Clippers might be a little affected. I think you can also sprinkle a quarter unit on the double-double plus 115. They're giving you a lot of juice for him to get 10 assists, which he does plenty frequently, but it's about the matchup with Indy, which allows the second fewest assists to point guards on the season. But they do allow the second most rebounds to the position since the All-Star break, 5th most rebounds overall. So just the pace and space of it all, allowing Harden to get in there with some boards. They also allow the most free throw attempts since the All-Star break. And while Harden has not been as aggressive and he has not, thrived under these new points of emphasis, which do not allow you to foul hunt as much, we're still looking at a recent sample size where his last two with Philly against the Pacers, he got 19 free throw attempts. He averaged 27.5 and 14 despite shooting poor from the floor because he was able to get to the line, keep himself going. And then he gets one against the Pacers early this season in one of his very first games with the Clippers, where he kind of found his rhythm. He goes 12 for 16, 8 for 11 from three, has 35 points and 9 assists. His last five overall, you look at the sample, he's cruising over this with just points and assists, 25 points, 12 and a half assists. He is a plus 70 in those games. So it's a good matchup for him against a team that does like to run and gun a little bit and doesn't necessarily have the best interior defense or the best point of attack defense. He is coming off a dud here, I mean, against his former team in the Sixers, but he still had 14 dimes, which still got him to 30 PRA. So half a point shy of this number, which is available best odds at FanDuel. You can go 31.5 if you need to at another book. Point is, like, Harden was not really able to score against Philly, who knows some of his tricks and wiles, and slowed it down. Again, 89 pace in that game, and he goes over 6 from 3. This game should be played around 100 pace or faster, despite the Pacers being on a back-to-back, because when they are on back-to-backs, they actually still play fast and still get a ton of points. 126 a game on 42% splits. They've allowed 130 plus in 4 straight games on back-to-backs, and just coming off an insane total against the Lakers yesterday. So tired legs all around, but Harden knows what to do with it. And I think he's trying to galvanize his team a little bit. I mean, it's weird to think of James Harden as your leader or your vocal leader in some way. They do get Westbrook back here. Maybe that throws a little bit of a wrench in the second unit. I mean, Westy's playing like 17 minutes probably and bringing you energy off the bench. And then Harden will take care of the rest, I think, with the first unit. And he should be, piling up stats in just a fast-paced game where the total is 233, and I believe that is a little bit too low.
All right, looking at my play of prop picks that I have here for you on Monday's big ol' 11-game slate that we've got here. I'm going with a man that I recently faded. I'm actually taking over on a Tobias Harris, points, rebounds, and assists in this game with Sacramento. This is one of the only games that I would not feel comfortable taking an over with, to be honest with you. But I do think that the rebounds and the points will be there for Tobias. So if you want to leave the assists off, I get that. You do get a little bit better juice by taking the assists in the Tobias Harris bet. But this really comes down to the fact that, I mean, I do think the turnaround in the last couple games for him on this road trip is something we can at least buy into. Of course, the moment that I start fading him, as I did on Friday, is the moment that he starts playing well in that game and in their game against the Clippers, where they won that one. A little bit of a revenge factor, you might say, for both those dudes, or at least for Tobias Harris on coming from the Clippers at one point. But either way, for him, it's about the shots that he's taking, the involvement that he has in the offense, and the fact that he's actually crashing the boards and is now second in the team in rebound chances, which is not something that he was really doing very much before these last couple games. That sort of upward trend for him, combined with this good matchup that he's had success in before against this Kings team, does lead me to like the over for him. He's going to have this matchup with Harrison Barnes, who does have the worst defensive rating on the team, sort of playing at that power forward position. And I mean, Sack has been bottom 10 for the whole season against everything he wants to do, his playmaking profile, where he shoots from, where he scores from, and his rebounding proficiency. Like, this is a place where his rebound chances should continue against this Sacramento team. He has gone over in his last three versus this squad, and 2 of those were actually without Joel Embiid. He went for 47 PRA against them just a couple months ago at this point. So this is a pretty good matchup for a guy who just sort of turned things around a bit. And while there might not be more than 224 or so points scored in this game, I still think the rebounds will help you get there with him. And I mean, this Philly team has not been scoring regardless. And the only 3 dudes that really have been scoring are mostly Maxey and Kelly Oubre, but with Tobias Harris mixed in there now as well, especially as a dude who can score down low. He's shooting a lot of his shots from right inside the paint, but not necessarily in the restricted area, which is where Sacramento is basically they are the second worst defense in the league at defending most of the paint, but especially a little bit of the extended paint. So we'll take over 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists for Toby Harris. And then we'll close it out with Derek White over 14.5 points. Gotta take Derek White over 14.5 points. Look, I mean, with Derek White right now, we're talking about Boston sitting a bunch of dudes every game, right? And I've been targeting and hitting on Peyton Pritchard points and assist props. Say that 5 times fast. But if you do find that Peyton Pritchard prop it's not going to be until right before game time. They haven't been giving us his props until pretty much tip comes, and then you can bet him live as well. And I love the lines that they keep giving us for his assists at like 4.5, 5.5. The points they keep giving us at about 12.5, 13.5. I think Peyton Pritchard gets time in this game as the Celtics probably blow out the Hawks. But if you look at Derek White, he's in a situation where we know he's playing without Drew Holiday, and he's going to be playing with Kristaps, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. None of the three of those dudes are on the injury report right now. So looks like they're going to be all three of those dudes in there with Derek White. And when he's played that this season in that context without Drew, but his other three starters, there's been 5 games over in all 5 pretty comfortably, averaging 19.5 points per game and 34.5 minutes per game at about 14 field goal attempts as well, right? And we love that volume. For him to get 15 points on 14 field goals, we feel pretty good about that, especially with the 5 to 6 threes that he probably, well, let's say at least 4 to 5 threes that he'll pull in this game against a very weak Atlanta perimeter defense. They're awful against point guards as they've been all season. And the thing with Derek White is the reason I'm not really looking at his assists is we're still going to get a lot of Jason Tatum in the pick and roll action with Kristaps Porzingis. That's what happens when those two dudes are on the floor. Then whenever they're not running that play, it's basically Jaylen Brown, get it and go in transition, or just speed up the pace wherever you are. And that's what he does, right? Attacking the basket. But then you've got Derek White, who's playing off of both of those dudes. And as soon as things close down for Jason Tatum and he doesn't have Kristaps as his first option, or Jaylen Brown drives into the lane and gets crowded by 3 people, and now Derek White's available for the kickout, that's why I do expect a few more 3-point attempts for him in this one, and the points to follow along with that. So if you want to take the threes, I get it, but I love the points for him at over 14.5 with something that he's hit over on very, very consistently. So that is all the time we have for you in this one here, the Player Props video. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page so you can continue to follow along as we have the best bets up, as well as we do each and every weekday. Until I see you next, happy betting.